In the drought-parched New Mexico territory, summer of 1883, a lonely young rancher named Caleb Ardrey gave his last canteen of water to a wounded Apache woman crossing his dying range. She vanished into the desert without a word. 3 days later, riders came hard to his gate. Her people, the Mescalero, because the men who had hunted her had told a different story. What began as a standoff at a fence post would slowly, stubbornly become something neither of them had language for. And when the real danger finally closed in, it would be both of them standing against it. Watch this one all the way through. If it moves you, hit the like button and drop your city in the comments. Now let us go back to where it started. The summer of 1883 turned the New Mexico territory into something close to ruin. Caleb Ardrey had been working the Coyote Flats land since he was 22, inheriting 160 acres from his father, along with a debt, a leaky well, and a herd of 23 cattle that drought had trimmed to 11 by August. The creek along his southern fence went dry in June. By July, the grass in the north pasture had gone the color of straw and stayed there. Caleb was 26 that summer, lean and quiet, with eyes the color of a sky that had run out of clouds. His mother died of fever when he was 9. His father lasted another decade before the land wore him out. His ranch hand, Pardo, wordless and steady, had been with the property longer than Caleb had been alive. That was the full inventory of his world. The ranch, the dying herd, Pardo, and a heat that felt like punishment for something no one could remember doing. He was checking fence on the eastern edge of his land on a Wednesday morning when he saw her. About 100 yards out, moving through the scrub at a crouch, one hand pressed flat against her side. The walk was wrong. Not the fluid stride of someone who knows the country, but the careful, compensating gait of a person carrying a wound and choosing not to admit it. She was Apache, young, perhaps 19 or 20, wearing a deerskin dress with simple fringe at the hem. Her hair was black and loose and heavy with dust. The hand pressed against her side was dark with dried blood. She had been moving a long time. You could read it in the measured economy of each step, the discipline of a body that has spent most of what it had and is running on whatever part does not quit. Caleb stood still at the fence post. He watched her take 4 more steps and sink to one knee. She stayed there a moment with her head down. That single pause told him more than all the rest had. Whatever was keeping a wounded woman moving across open desert in August, the effort was starting to win. He walked toward her slowly, hands out from his sides the way you approach a horse you do not know. She heard him at about 20 feet and came up from the crouch in one fast motion, a knife in her right hand. Her eyes were very dark and fully alert, no fear in them. Something older than fear, a readiness. Caleb stopped. He held both hands up, empty, and did not speak. Open hands say the same thing in every tongue there is. She held the knife where it was. He reached slowly for his saddle and unhooked the canteen. He held it out without moving his feet and waited. She looked at the canteen. She looked at his face. Then she stepped forward and took it, eyes on his the whole time, the knife still held exactly where it was. She drank the way a person drinks when the body takes over from the mind, deeply, without stopping. When she lowered the canteen, it was empty. She held it back toward him without a word. That one gesture told him she understood something about fairness, and that was enough. He reached out and took it. Their hands did not quite touch. She capped her knife and turned and walked east into the scrub. She did not look back. In 3 minutes she was gone entirely, and there was no sound that was not the wind. Caleb stood there with an empty canteen, a fence that still needed checking, and a sun still climbing. He finished the fence. He told Pardo what had happened that evening. Pardo said the East Range had always been Apache country, and that was all either of them said about it. The reckoning came on the third day. Pardo came up from the barn just before noon, moving faster than Caleb had seen him move in years. "Riders at the East Gate," he said. "Apache. A dozen at least." Caleb did not reach for his rifle. He thought about it, put the thought down, and walked to the East Gate alone. There were 14 of them. Mescalero, by the cut of the horses and the beadwork. Armed, but nothing raised. The rider at the front was older, silver threading his hair, his face shaped by years of making consequential decisions in hard country. He was not angry. He was something quieter than angry. He was waiting for the truth, and he intended to have it. A younger man beside him translated. "He says his daughter is missing. She was wounded by unknown men and tracked east across this land. Certain men have said a white rancher took her." Caleb stood still and said exactly what had happened. The fence line, the knife, the canteen, the direction she had walked. He left nothing out. He asks if you gave her water because you expected something in return. Caleb said no. She was hurt, and there was water. That was all. The older man was quiet after the translation. He had eyes that read faces and land by the same instinct, not looking for what he wanted to find, but for what was actually there. Caleb held the look and did not flinch, because he had nothing to flinch about. "He is Nana Chase, headman of this band," the translator said. "The men who said you took his daughter had reason to want trouble between his people and yours. He believes you are telling the truth." Nana Chase looked at the ranch then, reading it the way a person reads a place for what it says about who keeps it. Then he turned his horse, and the riders moved back east into their own dust. Caleb walked to the house. Pardo poured him a cup of water from the bucket and said nothing, which was the right response. She came 2 days later. Early morning, the light still amber. Caleb was at the corral when he heard the gate. He turned, and there she was on horseback, with the translator from the standoff riding a half-length behind. She dismounted and faced him. "My name is Sahari," she said. Her English was careful, not quite natural to her, but she used it the way she used everything, as the tool available. Her father had sent her to clear Caleb's name with their people. She had already told the band what happened. Her father wanted to speak with him, she said. At the Eastern Springs, Caleb said he would come whenever the headman wished. She held his gaze a moment, then said they would send word, remounted, and rode east with the translator. Pardo appeared at Caleb's shoulder. "You going?" he said. Caleb said he was. Pardo went back to the barn. The meeting with Nana Chase happened 4 days later. Caleb rode out at dawn with the translator, whose name was Listo, a young man of about 22, half Mescalero, practical and plain-spoken. They rode east into country Caleb had never entered. Scrub giving way to a shallow canyon threaded by a spring that ran clear and cold, even in the drought. The Mescalero camp was set back from the water in the canyon shade, compact and organized with the efficiency of people who travel well. They talked through Listo for close to 2 hours. There was a land agent named Garrett Harlow who had been working the valley for 2 years, buying and pressuring with the patience of a man who knows time favors the patient when the patient has lawyers. Caleb knew the name. Harlow had sent men to Coyote Flats the previous spring, and Caleb had turned them away. He thought about that visit now in a different light. It was Harlow's men who had found Sahari at the Eastern Springs 3 weeks ago, Listo translated. She had been gathering isocoma there, the golden weed her grandmother had taught her to use for wound poultice. She went alone often because she moved better without company. Harlow's men had been scouting the spring for survey work. They had decided to take her. She put a knife into one of them and got a blade across her own ribs for it. And she ran while they dealt with the first problem. They had blamed a white rancher because an accusation was safer than a confession. Caleb looked at the spring running clear 20 yards away. He said he was sorry it had happened, and he meant it plainly. Nana Chase listened, then through Listo. He says you are the first white rancher in this valley who has said that to him. He does not require it, but he notes it. Then more. He says the land Harlow wants includes the corridor between your ranch and this spring. Without it, my people lose the only water that still runs in August. He does not want your land to ranch it. He wants it to control who can reach the water. What threatens your land also threatens ours. Caleb said he understood. Then, a man who gives his last water to a stranger understands what water costs. He says such a man might understand what is worth protecting. Caleb rode home that afternoon and stayed up late thinking about the corridor and the spring and the families who had sold to Harlow without quite explaining why. He thought about Sahari running across his land with a knife in her ribs and about the story Harlow's men had told. He decided that evening to accept whatever Nana Chase had been offering. He was not yet entirely sure what that was. He would find out. 2 weeks passed. Then one Thursday morning, Sahari came to the house on foot, carrying a flat basket covered with cured hide. Inside was a poultice pack of layered herbs and a handful of small dark seeds. Sotol, she said, and pinyon pitch for the well casing, which she said was seeping through the base. She showed him where the narrow-leaf yucca grew in a rocky rise he had walked past 100 times, and how the pulp of the leaf drew out the inflammation in rope-burned hands. She taught without repeating herself. She said a thing once, clearly, then watched to see if he understood. If he did not, she said it differently rather than louder. He asked at one point how she had learned which plants could be used for what. She said her grandmother had taught her, that the Mescalero had been reading this land for longer than anyone living could count, and that knowledge was not stored in books but in people, passed from grandmother to daughter until it lived in your hands the way breathing does. He was quiet after that. They walked back to the ranch in the cooling afternoon, and he gave her water at the door. They stood on the porch with the light going long across the flats, and for the first time, the quiet between them was not the quiet of two strangers measuring the distance. It was just quiet, the ordinary kind. Before she left, he said she had fought Harlow's men and gotten herself out of that canyon. He said it because he had been thinking about it for 2 weeks and wanted her to know he had not missed it. She looked at him. I put a knife into the taller one, she said. A fact, plain as anything. Then, I did not get myself out completely. Your fence line was the edge of where I could reach. He nodded. He found he valued that kind of accounting. She came to the ranch twice more that September, and one evening she and Listo came together because Nana Chase had sent word that Harlow's survey crew had been seen on the north ridge above the spring. Sahari told Caleb what she had been watching for 2 years. The survey routes, the water sources Harlow had mapped, the claims Listo had read for her in English. She knew more about Harlow's plan than Harlow likely imagined anyone outside his circle knew. When they left, Caleb sat on the porch steps and thought about what it meant that the woman across the table from him had done more work on the man threatening his ranch than he had. He was not troubled by it. He was grateful. Those are different things. The threat came in the third week of September. 3 riders arrived up the South Road with the slightly too composed expression of men who have run this errand before. From Harlow's land office, they said. There was a question about a prior offer on Coyote Flats. Harlow was a reasonable man. Caleb let them finish, then said the ranch was not for sale, and if Harlow believed otherwise, he was welcome to prove it through any legal avenue available. There was water in the trough for their horses if they needed it. They watered the horses and rode out without another word. Pardo said, "That is not the end of it." Caleb agreed. He sent word to Listo that afternoon. A reply came at dawn the next morning by way of a Mescalero rider who handed a folded paper to Pardo and rode away without stopping. The paper said, "Harlow's men are moving. Sahari has been watching the South Ridge. She says they will not use lawyers again." 3 nights later, they came. 8 men on foot for the last half mile, from the south in 2 groups, one for the barn, one for the water tank. No torches yet, but coal oil on the night air. The kind of work that does not need fire to start, but plans to end with it. Caleb was at the barn door with Pardo when the first shapes appeared at the south fence. He had moved the horses north 2 days before. On the ridges above, in positions Harlow's men had no reason to look, Mescalero riders had been in place since sundown. Sahari among them. Caleb stepped out into the yard. He said, at a volume that carried across the dark, that he knew who sent them and what they had come to do. He said the ridges above had been occupied since sunset, and the people up there knew this country in ways no hired man ever would. He told them to make the calculation themselves about what they were being paid for versus what the night was actually going to cost. Silence. One of them said he was bluffing. Caleb said nothing. He looked at the South Ridge. A fire appeared there, held 4 seconds, then went dark. Then one on the East Ridge. Then a single clear note came rolling down the slope, the kind the Mescalero used to call across distance, and it carried with complete authority. The horses below started moving. The way horses move when they understand the ground around them is not what they were told it would be. 90 seconds, give or take. That was how long it took from that sound to the moment the last rider cleared the fence. No fire, no shot. Caleb watched them until the dark took them. Pardo let out a long breath beside him. Caleb went inside. He sat at the table and thought about the months of work ahead. The territory land office, the forged survey claims, the families who had sold under duress. Slow work, patient work, but the arithmetic had shifted the way Nana Chase said it should. Sahari came to the gate at first light. She had been awake all night, and looked it, in the way people who have been awake all night sometimes look cleaner than usual. Past tired, past worry, into something steadier. She said the men on the ridge had counted 8 riders plus 3 with horses further back. One of them had been the same man she put a knife into at the spring 2 months before. She knew his horse. Caleb said he was glad the shoulder had healed then. A pause. "So am I," she said. He brought out 2 cups of water. She took one. They stood on the porch in the early light, the South Ridge holding its shape against the sky. After a while, he said he wanted to speak to her father, not just to thank him. he had something he wanted to ask. She looked at him, and he thought she already understood the shape of it. She said her father would hear it, but Caleb would have to come to camp, and he would have to sit with the headman and say plainly what he felt and what he intended, the way he had told the truth at the fence line, because her father read people the way she read land. Caleb said he could do that. She said, "I know." She handed back the cup, mounted, and rode east in the rising light. He met with Nana Chase at the Eastern Spring 1 week later. He said he was a young man who had built something on this land and intended to keep building. He had learned that building alone was not the same as building well, and that he had been watching his fence line for years without watching what lay beyond it. He asked what he wanted to ask plainly and let the headman decide. Nana Chase listened. Then he said a daughter of the Mescalero was not a piece of land to be transferred. If Caleb wanted to build something with Sahari, he would have to build it alongside her, not on top of ground he did not understand. He asked if Caleb understood the difference. Caleb said he did. The headman said acceptance was not given in a morning, but in years, in the way a man keeps his word and tends what he has been trusted with. Caleb said he understood that too. The headman looked at him a long time, then threw listo. He says Sahari has told him what she has seen on your land. He says a man whose sotol seedlings are still growing in September in a drought year knows how to tend a living thing. He will not stand in her way. Caleb rode home with the mountains going gold behind him and the range opening flat and dry under the late sun, thinking about what was ahead. Years of it, slow and ordinary and worth everything. He asked Sahari a month later, on the porch at evening, simply and without ceremony, because that was who both of them were. He brought out 2 cups of water, which had become the language between them that neither had named. He handed her one. He said her name. He said he had built most of what was good about this ranch by paying attention to what it needed, and he had spent 4 months learning the same applied to people. He was a slow learner, he said, but a thorough one. He asked if she would stay. She looked at him for a moment. Then she put her hand over his where it rested on the cup, and she said yes. Not as a performance, not as an answer designed to fit the question. Just yes. 2 people who had arrived at the same place by very different roads and intended to stay. The drought broke in October, the well filled. The creek ran clear by November. Caleb mended the last of the fence before the first frost. Sahari showed him when to harvest the sotol root. He showed her which cattle were worth keeping through a hard year and which were not. They traded knowledge the way they traded cups of water, without keeping account, which is the only way that kind of trading works over time. The Harlow matter resolved the way these things do, slowly and without drama. A surveyor found the forged claims. 3 families who had sold under pressure came forward together in the spring and told their stories. Harlow's operation unwound over the following year. The valley stayed. The spring stayed. The corridor between the ranch and the Eastern Spring stayed open, and the fence gate at Coyote Flats was left open, because that is what you do when the people passing through are no longer strangers. Pardo nailed a piece of Mescalero beadwork to the gatepost one morning, blue and white and intricately worked, the piece Nana Chase had sent after the agreement was made. When the seasonal hand asked what it meant, Pardo said it meant people were welcome to water their horses at the trough, which was true as far as it went. What it meant fully needed to be lived in order to be said. Caleb Ardrey had come to this land as a young man with a debt and a dying herd, and the loneliness of someone who has decided isolation is the same thing as safety. He learned at the end of a drought summer that it was not. A woman who gave him the precise name of every plant she showed him and made no allowance for his not knowing things he should have known taught him that. A headman who read his fence posts from a ridge and decided they said something worth trusting taught him that. He never made a speech about any of it. He was not that kind of man. But there is a ranch in the Coyote Flats country with a sotol stand in the south corner of the yard, and a creek that runs clear from October to June, and a gate that has been left open longer than anyone living can quite remember. And if you look at the fence posts along the east boundary, partner, you will see they are set level and true and cared for. The way the posts of a man who is paying attention have always been cared for. That is the whole of it. If this story reached you somewhere it needed to reach, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your city in the comments. There is a new story every week, and every one of them is worth being there for.